Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. If you're new to the show, we've got two types of show. One where we interview a guest about what they're doing, their work history, and try and take some of the lessons they've learned and apply it to our industry. And then the one that we have tonight, we got three guys who are focusing on kind of different parts of the industry, building businesses. So tonight we're going to run through recap of what we've been doing, stuff that we've been particularly focused on for the last month, what we're going to be looking at going into the next month. And then we'll wrap up the evening with a section that we call Company Thoughts. This is where we take a topic and we speak to it as if we're speaking to our team. And sometimes very literally, this is going to be something that we turn around and say, hey, I need you guys to listen to this. So we're going to kick it off like we always do with catching up with the boys and say, boys, what have we been up to?
You can now address me as Baron because I own some land.
Wow.
No.
Yep. You call him Baron von Reich.
What'd you get?
No, we bought some land. We bought 0.54 acres in Wisconsin. So it's part of a development. Every other lot was way more expensive because this lot had been bought by some people. They bought next door to their relatives, ended up moving to a completely different part of the state, and they just had this listed for like 2 years. So they had it listed for like 53. We bought it for 50. They accepted the offer, and now we're just going through the due diligence. So super excited, and if everything goes well, we'll be able to start building in springtime.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah. So very excited about that. Yeah. Big moves. Other than that, I've been spending way too much money on stuff I don't want to spend money on, like the Phoenix Homes irrigation. I called Thaddeus about that, and had some interesting experiences with some guys who just did not want money, I guess. They just took forever to get back to me and give me quotes. I had one company take 4 weeks to get me an estimate for a full-on replacement for irrigation. And then I decided I got fed up with it. I did Angie, and I actually had quite a few like good references come through that, and people were very responsive. So very interesting experience. Got that taken care of, thankfully. So now that's one less thing in the bucket. And then my son turned 2, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
What about you guys?
that is exciting. We bought a car last week,
Nice.
What'd you get?
a silver Toyota Sienna.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's a more valuable investment than like gold or silver at this point. Toyotas never go down in price.
I hope not. Yeah. Found a good one. So
Nice. Heck yeah. What year is it?
2020.
Heck yeah, dude.
So it's the last year before they started doing the hybrids.
Oh,
So
nice.
hopefully they perfected this one.
Well, I think the 2020s are the ones that still had all like the really nice parts before the shortage came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know for a lot of like 2021s and 2022s, they're just missing a lot of chips and technically have less features than a lot of the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to get a 2019 or 2020, the latter years of the new transmission and before the hybrids came out. So
Nice. Sweet, man.
So riding around town, smooth ride.
Yeah.
A lot
Cool.
of- So looking for a road trip coming up.
There you go.
Why didn't you want a hybrid?
Well, I didn't want the first year, 21, and then 22's still kind of soon, and then the newer ones are a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Some
know,
of
maybe in
those Siennas,
several years we'll look at the 24s. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Some of the newer Siennas, I mean, Toyotas in general are like 50 grand even used, and it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I know I used to go to church with, and he has a hybrid, and it's one of the early ones. I forget. This year's probably wrong. I want to say it's a Chevy 2007.
Oh, wow.
He loves that thing.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about he gets like 700 miles to a tank on that
Dang.
thing. I was blown away by it. Like, he loves it. And he's not one of the guys who is disproportionately in love with the hybrids, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I took his word with a little bit more credibility.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty cool. What about you, Thad? What were you up to?
The usual working. I
Okay.
honestly did looked at the calendar this month, and I did feel like I didn't do anything except for work for the most part. We did go to the lake like 2 Sundays ago. And it was kind of nice to hang out, and it's a lot cooler outside now, and I think people are back in the swing of things with school and all that, so there was so much more room out there. Usually in the summer at Lake Pleasant, things are packed, so for it to be all open and we could just grab the spot that we wanted was awesome. And then also had son's first birthday party, and I was not involved in any of the planning.
Nice.
And then
That's
come the
surprising.
week of, right. Come the week of, I'm asking my wife, how many people are showing up? And she's like 50. And I'm like, oh, okay. So turns out it was closer to like 35 probably, but still for our house, that was a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to have everyone there. So
yeah.
Did you have chocolate milk to feed everyone?
I did not. That's for mine.
That's under lock and key. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on the gun safe.
100%. I don't have a gun safe. I have a chocolate milk safe.
it's
refrigerated.
A mini fridge with like a janky padlock on it.
Exactly. As my son's crawling around, I got to make sure he can't get to the good stuff.
You should see if you can get a Shamrock Farms padlock. Don't touch my chocolate milk.
You feed him the fried milk. Shamrocks for Big Daddy.
Yeah, we did have one of our projects close out that was it was a bigger project, so I was happy to have that one closed out. So that was good.
Nice.
Other than that, that's been it for the most part. We had 2, technically 3 job starts this month. We've got another one on next Monday. And then, yeah, we're rolling. We've got a lot going on right now. So it's good. Life's good.
Sweet, man.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, we're all bored.
There probably is more. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I'm an old fart already. I don't remember what I ate yesterday.
No. I looked at my calendar. It just said work. So. All right. Well, before we transition into some of our business stuff, we need to talk about the greatest product that we know, love, cherish in our hearts deeply, and think about when we go to bed at night. And that is Shamrock Farms chocolate milk, the whole milk. So I want to tell you a real story. Today, I woke up, I was having some issues with some jobs. People were not doing what they're supposed to do. The details were getting nitpicked on that I felt like were way over the top for what they should be. And so I was nice and riled up. And I had a really important meeting to go to. So what do? I've got about 10 minutes to spare, probably less than 10 minutes to spare. I know there's a Fry's right down the road. So I swing in and I grab myself some Shamrock Farms chocolate milk, take the edge off, walk into that meeting, and there we go. That's a true story, by the way, just for anyone wondering. So if you want to know how I really take the edge off, it's not whiskey, it's not vodka, it's Shamrock Farms chocolate milk.
Oh, so funny. Yeah, I can confirm, since not having chocolate milk, Shamrock Farms chocolate milk available in my state, I am now at least 30% sadder. So, yeah, it is what it is. I might need a transplant. It's maybe a care package sent to me with some chocolate milk or something. Hint, hint.
We'll make it happen.
All right. Well, anyway.
Apparently Connor doesn't love you that much.
Yeah.
All right. Usually I kick off the business section of things, but got a little tied up. So I'm going to have Connor kick it off, and I'm going to try and do some last minute fill in the blank stuff for what I've got going. So Connor, hit us with some of our industry stats that we follow for the local inventory on the real estate market, and then jump into what you've been working on.
Sounds good. You got our active listings, close, and interest rates. So active listings have ticked up about 1,400 from last month to sitting just under 28,000 active listings. Last month was 26,500. That's a 5% increase in active listings, which is a substantial jump. Closes have decreased, kind of like the trend we've been seeing the past several months or even majority of this year. They're right at 5,600. Last month was 5,800. So fewer closes, more active listings. Interest rate, though, has decreased, steadily coming down. This is for a 30-year mortgage purchase for a primary residence, sitting at 5.58. Last month was 5.8. So it's dropped almost a quarter point there. Recapping some numbers, we're about 90% collected right now on rents, which is a little lower than usual, but communicating with 3 tenants that they're good tenants and they typically always pay. So when I say good tenants, they're kind of long-term and they communicate ahead of the first of the month saying that they're going to be late. So good communication's good on that front. We have 2 vacancies, only for our apartments right now. 2-bedroom in Tempe off of 4th Street, and then a 1-bedroom off of Broadway in Tempe. So just 2 vacancies. We had a long-term tenant move into one of our furnished units last month, which was great. They'll be there they signed a year lease for furnished. And then we had a midterm furnished tenant move in last week for about 3 months. So
real quick, was the full year one the upsell that you were talking about last time?
No, fortunately, but that's okay because I got this one. Yeah, still working with the upsells. Tenant moved in for a year in a furnished place, which is great. I'm happy about it. What else? So I did have, I was doing the mailing campaigns and did it for several months and kind of stopped because I wasn't seeing any traction. I picked it up again because I got a call last month from a gentleman whose mother moving into an old folks home and they need to sell their house. So I went out. They're out of state. The kids are out of state. The mom's here. House is in great shape. The 3.2, 1,400 square foot on a corner lot. They need to sell it, and they're out of state. So we were, their house cleaner had a key and their neighbor had a key. So I'm trying to work around that schedule. Ended up, the house cleaner had a key. We looked at the house, sent an offer. We verbally agreed over the phone. They're just waiting to hear some stuff with the state, and her mother or his mother has dementia, so they're waiting to hear if the state can help out with some stuff. But I have a good feeling about that house. It's a great house. It's pretty good price, and whole process was smooth. Try to work with them as best as we can. And funny enough, so the house cleaner, her name's Lulu, showed us the house. She's been the house cleaner for 10 years plus. It says they're like family. We're done touring the house, and then she says, my other client recently passed away and gave me her house. Can you buy the house? I don't know what to do with it. So I'm like, sure. So I follow her to this other house, and a longtime client passed away and gave her house cleaner, Lulu, her home. And it's manufactured home in a 55 plus community, but could be a great house.
Yeah.
So I went over, 2 birds, 1 stone. So talking to her and trying to help out. It's a little more nuance with that one because they're going through probate currently, and there's a trustee sale in January. So we'll have to work with her on making sure she has title and getting through it, but hoping we can help her out as well.
Can you rent? And like, is there certain restrictions in renting in a 55 plus community?
Depends on what the docs say.
Mm.
So we just had a 55 plus townhouse that we've owned for a while that we rented out. It's in an HOA. HOA says has to be longer than a 6-month lease.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be anything shorter. At least one person has to be 55 years old living in the home. And then no one younger than 18 can ever live in the home. And then the whole community, I don't know how they track this, but the whole community has to be at least 85% over 55 years old. So that's in the HOA docs whenever they created it in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what this manufactured home is, but I'll look. It'd probably be one where we buy it, flip it, maybe do a leased purchase or just sell it, depending.
Yeah. Okay.
But that community looked really nice, and the house isn't in too bad a shape.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. I've got that in the works. And then there was a house over in Scottsdale that we had finished, rented out over the summer, and 4 houses down, we see the garage door burned and it looked like a fire. So I've been trying to contact the owners. I've called them several times, and unfortunately the house sold to someone else. And I called a new owner. He's a real estate investor. He picked up the house, and they might be wanting to sell it. So I told the guy I've been trying to figure out who owns this house, and he eventually bought it. But we have kind of that house in the works as well. So working a few different deals, working a few different houses. Goal is this month, hopefully lock one up and maybe another.
Mm-hmm.
That would kind of bring us out to the end of the year. Also this year, we started refinancing, found some good rates for debt service coverage ratio loans, which basically means can the rent that's coming in cover the mortgage payment? And it's just a type of loan for investors, and we're starting to refinance more. Testing some Facebook ads along with the mailers. So that's been cool, getting some preliminary numbers on the ads and clicks, and you can have Alex help me sort through that after this call, make sure we're on the right track. But just testing it. We're spending money on the mailers, and we can spend money in more places. So just whatever works where you can connect with the most people. Mm-hmm. We also, one of the action steps from last month for this month was clean up some stuff. It was kind of vague, but we have a few garages full of junk over the years that we've accumulated, mostly construction materials, appliances. And through Thaddeus, we hired almost a facilities maintenance guy who's been helping us out like 10 to 20 hours a week. And I think we're on our 4th week. He's been doing a lot of work, just cleaning stuff up, getting this stuff quickly, and that's been a big help. So thank you, Thad, for that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, other stuff from last month, continue to find off-market stuff. So I guess the reason I'm picking up the mailers again is we actually saw some traction, and I think I can define my lists even better. The first few were kind of vague, kind of narrowing it down and seeing what lists actually work, because you can get pretty deep into the weeds and find specific people to mail to. So I'm going to try to dig deep into that.
What criteria are you trying to put into that specifically, or what did you see that said, oh, okay, we need to go this direction?
Yeah, definitely long ownership. So 10 plus years of ownership. Those one I just sent was out of state owners. So for him, this last house fits into the criteria where the mother transferred it to the son, and that would classify as an out-of-state owner. So owned it a long time, out-of-state owner. It's still the same zip codes we're looking for. The type of building, so certain square footage of building. If it has a loan, if it doesn't have a loan, so we're doing no loans, so that constitutes long ownership. A few other categories, just narrowing it down quite a bit. Action sets going into next month. Hopefully we can lock down one of these 3 houses. That'd be great. And then continue to refinance. We're doing 2 right now, hopefully complete 7 by the end of the year. It's kind of our goal.
Are you still playing with messaging for the mailers? Or do you feel like you have, I know that's something we kind of talked about last month.
Different type of messaging?
Yeah, or just how you were going to structure your offer.
Yeah, I did the same. Well, I've done 2 different types. I did one of the 2, so I haven't adjusted that.
Gotcha.
I will though. I want to.
Okay.
Yeah. And then still working on the Facebook ads, so getting some traction there and testing a few different ads, see what works. So all good on my front. What about you, Alex?
So on my end, I've been doing a lot of research this month on how businesses are using AI. I have a little bit of an in at a larger organization, about 1,500, and they actually have like a dedicated user group. So what I mean by that is they have a group of people who come together every week and they show how they're using AI within the company. And most of it hasn't been anything that I'm like, oh, wow, this is super groundbreaking stuff. But it's really interesting to see how a business this large, like they bought ChatGPT for whoever wants it. So anybody at the company can get an enterprise version of ChatGPT. You get the newest models. You have ChatGPT's promise that they won't use your data for training or anything like that. You've got the data privacy. But it's super interesting to see how they're specifically using it. So there's 4 main ways that I see it, and then the first 2 are by far like the most popular that I'm seeing people use it for. The number 1 thing is research. Like people are essentially using ChatGPT as the next Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, hey, tell me how to do X, Y, and Z. I think we've all used it that way. I think that's just by far the easiest way to start using it for people who don't know how to. Hey, how should I lay out this presentation? How should I go about doing this plan? I mean, my wife even uses it. She even used it to plan my son's birthday party of, hey, I have 30 people. How much food should I get? I need to go to Costco. Help me figure out exactly how much pounds of chicken or whatever else I should get. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see how quickly and naturally people have switched over from the research perspective. Another thing that feeds well into the research that I don't think enough companies are doing is creating like a company knowledge base. So what I mean by that, imagine, I think, Thaddeus, this is an example that I'm thinking of for you. I'm also talking to a GC as I'm building a house, and he's building 10 to 12 homes a year, but it's just him and his wife. And so his wife does a lot of the plans, but he gets tons of texts and emails, and then he's also texting vendors all the time. And so keeping track of that takes a lot of time, especially if you're the main person who's doing that. So having some kind of organization of, you don't necessarily need AI to respond to emails for you, but I'm seeing a lot of people use it for consolidation of data. So recording a lot of calls that you have with clients and with people, and then summarizing that. And then essentially creating a depot or a hub of, it's like, okay, here's all the, you have client A, client B, client C. Here's all the emails related to client A. And then if you're talking to client A, you can have like the most important notes about client A compiled from all your text and emails. It's like, oh, hey, Thaddeus, you have action items 1 and 2 that you had promised you would have done by the next time you talk to them. And they had raised concerns about X, Y, and Z. So make sure you're covering that the next time you're talking to them. So that I think is supercharging a lot of people because it makes you seem like you've got everything covered. You have excellent memory, and it's really helping from the customization part of it. And I think it's being incredibly valuable there. The second most the biggest thing that I'm seeing people use it is for rough drafts and busy work. So what I mean by that, if you're a coder or you're an accountant or whatever, and there's a lot of busy work that you would typically hand off to a more junior person, saying like, hey, I need you to format all of this, I need you to add commas here, I need you to, do X, Y, or Z. That's stuff where ChatGPT has gotten really good, and every AI has gotten really good at just formatting that for you. And so you're no longer having to manually write it out yourself or do any formatting. Or for rough drafts, I think is another good example. So like, hey, I need a presentation template. So, okay, give me everything here. I still don't think it's good enough right now to just, take it and immediately go with it. But I found a lot of success in terms of someone said, hey, Alex, I need a project plan, but I need it to be exactly one page. And I asked it for a couple ideas. It gave me a few project plans, and I end up still doing some rework, but it's a great place to start off of. And then the last two things that I see people using is from the coder's perspective for debugging. So, hey, I got this error. Again, I think that kind of goes a little bit more in the research bucket, but being able to have a very tailored thing that you're not having to go seek, whether it's through Reddit or Stack Overflow or any of these other things, is useful. And then the thing that people can really start utilizing, but I'm not necessarily seeing it as much, is for building like completely custom stuff. So if I wanted to come in and say, hey, an example is Connor, the thing we built together for the wholesale. So reading all the wholesale emails, creating essentially a database, and then throwing that into sheets, doing a lot of formatting. Nowadays, if you're patient enough, you can just pop that into ChatGPT and say, build this for me. It doesn't have to be the most optimum thing, but you can have, the barrier to entry is so much lower than before. So other than that, in terms of overall things, that's kind of where I'm at with most of things going forward. I'm trying to get connected to a few people in the AI industry a little bit more. I've been putting my feelers out there and just trying to have some more conversations with people. Something I've noticed is just getting out there and getting connected to people either through social media or otherwise. You can just strike up some conversations and learn some incredibly valuable information that you don't necessarily get from YouTube or other applications. So I hear a lot of people just talking still right now about, oh, we just need more AI. But when I ask them to define what that means, no one really knows. So they just know they want more of it, but they don't know what that looks like right now. All right, Thaddeus.
All right. I figured out what I wanted to say, and I've got a lot of it, so I'll try and pare it down so that I don't get everyone lulled to sleep. But let's go through some of the material stuff for our industry before we jump into the fun stuff. 2x4s, 365, plywood, 1938, copper, 3226. What does that mean? 2x4s are staying steady. If anything, they're coming down a little bit. Plywood staying right in that range that we expect, and copper is still just very, very slowly ticking up. I think it's holding steady from last month. But what does this mean? As always, broken record. For the most part, people talk about things are expensive with materials. I was at a house with a guy today and said, well, with how the economy's in a bad spot right now and all that. And I'm like, I don't know what metric he's going off of, but you just kind of nod and play along when it's a customer or a lead, and then you move on. But as far as use those numbers that we have kind of as your guideline, that things don't seem to be as crazy as people are saying. There was a tariff announcement recently from the president that was very specific to our industry, and I didn't look directly into it yet because I think it kicked in. Today's the 6th, and it kicked in on the 1st. But the stuff that we're dealing with for the most part is made in America, so don't have to worry about it too much. I think the stuff that you're going to really see affected by that is going to be your big box online stuff. But anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole that I do not want to be going down. So let's look at the numbers for last month. last month we took in a gross of $96,000 for the projects that we were on. As far as our profitability goes, I know I have not really shared a lot of this or been open with that. So the way that we do our projects is essentially we have a project cost to the customer. And so let's say it's $100,000. And then we have the gross profit that we'll make off of that. And that essentially is going to be what pays the majority of our stuff. We have some things that we get hands-on with. And right now that's essentially framing. And we can talk about more of that later and what our scope looks like. But essentially from there's a percentage of that comes, which right now that percentage is 25% of the total contract cost is what we're trying to take home. Have we been doing that a lot this year? No. And we'll get into that more here in a second. But from that, if we have a $100,000 job, our goal is to be keeping $25,000 of that. So that pays for our overhead between some of the software that we have, my salary, my employees' salaries, stuff like that, trying to make sure everything's covered. So we've been getting dinged on projects, obviously, recently where things are not going as planned. And so that has been taking a hit. Regardless, our profitability, we have some accounts that need to be settled, but as numbers fall out, we should essentially have $30,000 of operating, or I don't know if operating income is the right word, but $30,000 that is going to be ours to play with. That's our cushion for right now. And I think we've got a healthy projection for what we're going to end with for the year. So I'm very excited about that, but I'm going to let that play out before I start counting my chicken. So anyways, action steps from last month. We said that we had some stuff go wrong on projects, and a lot of that came down to a lot of the prep beforehand. So we're building out a detail sheet. The nice part was that before we jumped into the podcast today, I had a walkthrough and I was actually able to use that detail sheet each time. So it was fun to use that. But going into next month, I'm going to try and make sure that this is kind of ready to be more customer facing and then also trade friendly going forward. So that's what we're going to be working on. So we've got a couple things that I want to highlight more on the business side as far as what we've been dealing with or what we've been growing through right now. And the first one I mentioned already was that our profit needs to be fixed. This has been a problem for a very long time. This is a problem that I have run my head into over and over. I feel like we're turning the corner on it finally, but that is still yet to be seen because I thought I was turning the corner on it a couple times before this. And so we're going to see how that all works out. We talked about it last week with some of the stuff that we were doing with that detail sheet that we mentioned, trying to make sure that the communication was done better, that we're running our projects better. And then we also have a very full slate of projects right now. So I've been advised for months now that my markup should be higher than it is, significantly higher than it is. And at this point, I feel like I'm finally at a spot of getting beat up on the paperwork side or beat up on the side of where's the money at the end of these projects that I'm like, you know what? It's time to raise the prices on it. And it's also, we have a full docket of things. So this is the opportunity to say, hey, we've got a runway that I don't need people saying yes to projects, and we'll see if we can get people saying yes to the right projects or at the right price for the projects. So that's what we're working on. That also kind of goes into the next thing is that, well, I need to back up just one step. I want to tease something out, and I don't want to show everything yet, but essentially I spoke to a friend of mine that he runs a construction company similar to mine, and he's seeing like 6x on his return from Instagram and Facebook ads right now. And they're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on their Instagram and Facebook ads. So we had built up a plan to kind of push a little bit harder into our social media. And right now we have a 12-week plan for, it's going to be 3 posts a week that we're going to have going out, particularly on Instagram. And I know I'm terrible at this, but I keep saying I'll put it in the notes. I'm going to try and see if we can get some of this stuff put in the notes. So I'll show the detail of all the things that we're planning on putting across the 12 weeks into this. And the next step after that is going to be, we're just going to start from the top and go back down. So I'm going to cheat by looking at my whiteboard. Essentially, we're going to be doing two things. We've got, or three things. We've got projects that we're going to be showcasing. So this is previous work that we've done. It'll be like, oh, look, before, after, or here's the reel of what we're doing. We're going to do a little bit of what is it? The processes and finishes that we do. So this is going to be specific parts of projects, how we do it, what makes it stand out, or what's the quality that we're putting into it, or if there's certain products that we're putting into people's houses that we want to highlight. And so we're going to start trying to put in some higher finish things into our customers' houses. And we're going to do, some of it is we're going to pay for, but we want to be able to highlight it on projects. And the last part is going to be a little bit more getting to know who we are and doing Q&A about who we are. So we want one of those to be posted on Instagram every single week. And so we'll be trying to touch base with anyone who follows us that 3 times. It'll be across 12 weeks. And then essentially, even if we don't create any more content, for the most part, people can't forget or can't remember 3 months back. So we can just start at the top and work our way back down. But by then, hopefully, we've got new projects to cycle in there. So if the newer projects have better quality photos or just present better on Instagram, if we've got 2 of those, we'll take the 2 worst ones, pull those out, plug the new ones in, and we're off to the races. And as we have new products that we can showcase, same thing. If we have more kind of questions or get to know us type things, you guys get what we're doing. So it makes it where hopefully long-term, we're going to do a big lift up front and then not have to really revisit that, but that's what we're trying to push into. So that all kind of circles back into, then our plan would be is if profit fixed, we'll have more money stacked up to start doing the same thing of throwing tens of thousands of dollars into the social media ads. I've thrown a couple dollars into the social media ads and seen nothing. And it seems that when people actually throw real money into it, it works, and it needs to be real money over a long period of time. So we're trying to save up $40,000 so that we can have $6,000 a month that we'd be month for 6 months, have $4,000 set aside to put into like a videographer, someone to help us out with a lot of that stuff and really crank on that. So as we get closer, I might share more of the details, more behind the scenes of what I've been told, but essentially I'm going to leave it there for right now. But essentially we're going to be kicking off that social media plan to try and just give ourselves a better foundation on Instagram to say, like, when someone shows up, it looks like we've been around a lot longer. They got to scroll for a while and see, oh yeah, these guys know what they're doing. So now with that, if we're going to be cranking this thing up a notch, we realize that we're going to need to be bringing someone on. And right now I've got my sister and my cousin who are working with me in a part-time capacity, but we're looking more at, we need someone who is a little closer to my speed, at least on the production side of things, if not maybe a little better. So to do that, we've got someone that we're aware of is thinking about changing jobs. So we're trying to enter into conversations on that. So if you're a fan of the movie Hot Rod, we're kicking off what we call Operation Fiscal Jackhammer. And our goal is essentially to put $1,000 on top of a 6-month emergency fund in the next 6 months. The reason why that's going to be $40,000 that we can dump into ads like we just talked about, and then another $60,000 that would be essentially 6 months of that person's salary. So I'm time that was stressful for a lot of jobs. We're putting those to bed, and I feel like I have a little bit more energy for growth at this point. So I'm very excited about that. And now it's more like, all right, we're seeing the light. We've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's see how fast we can hit this thing. And we have a runway with our project so we can fix our profitability. We can start to set ourselves up for 2026. And we're looking to just hit this thing as hard as we can.
Dang. You're cooking, Thad.
Yeah.
Trying. I might come on next month and be like, "Oh, it was all fun and
Everything
games."
sucks.
Yep, exactly. So, but that's what we're focusing on right now. That's kind of what we've been planning out. I've got my sister. We're going to be working together in probably 2 weeks to do a lot of the filming for. We're going to try and spend a day to film the days with the details and the kind of stuff about us for social media, so that my goal was to kind of kick it off this month. We're going to kick it off in November. So November, people should start see a real uptick in what we're doing. And she's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the editing and posting and all that stuff. But yeah, so.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, if I haven't okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, the ad budget you're building up. You say you were talking to someone, your friend who's spending a lot on Facebook and Instagram. That's kind of his guidance on spending that per day or beefing it up.
Sorry, say that again.
You were talking to your friend about the Facebook ads, and he's kind of the one that was helping guide how much to spend or how much to post, that type of thing.
I'm trying to be a little bit vague, but he told me how much he was spending per day and the amount of money that he was making per year in revenue. We have similar markups on our projects, and essentially our companies are very similar, been in business a similar amount of time, and they're more than doubling our revenue for the year, essentially. And to put it in perspective, they have only had one referral. The rest has come from social media marketing.
Oh, wow.
So I'm essentially just taking like, okay, I see how much you're spending. Let's see if we can do it. So
was it a little shocking to you on how much they were spending?
Yes and no, not for the amount of money they're making. So that's where it's like when you're, I'm trying to be a little bit vague with some of the details because I don't want to give away. Like I know there's stuff behind the scenes, but yeah. So I think for me, I went in to the conversation and it was more like I had questions as far as like, what are you doing? Because it's obvious, like it's working. I can tell it's working. You're doing stuff that's bigger than we are, and we started around the same time. So like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it was it's 99% social media, and here's how much we're spending. And so it was like, oh, okay, understood. And kind of from there, I literally went home from that, sat down with a piece of paper and started doing the math to just be like, what do we need to do? What does it look like? We're not going to be as good as they are off the jump. So how much money do we have to dump into it? How much time do we have to put into it? What, and go from there. And there's some things that I think that we have a lot of business that's based off of referrals and customers coming back to us. And for them to not have a lot of that, I look at it and go, okay, I think we're not going to perform as well on the ads as they are because they're doing a very good job. And they've been doing it for a while now. So I don't think that me coming in day one that we're going to be able to perform the same way they are.
They didn't perform that way day one either.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah. But for me, I look at it just from the competitive side where it's, can we do a better job at getting referrals because we're doing a better job at getting referrals now.
Well,
even when we expand the pipeline with marketing.
If your customer acquisition cost is higher, that's fine, because if you're getting more lifetime value with referrals, that's where the real poison is going to be.
Yeah, and the way that we talked about it, I think last month or the month before with our 5 drivers for a company that the retention and referral part of it is retention and referral essentially is free marketing. So it's if we can get to the point where we get the same, let's say it's just an example, 10 customers from our marketing, but if we can then have it where we get 2 referrals off of that, so next time, if it's next year or next month or whatever it is, that we have 12 to someone else's 10, and then after that month we have 14 to someone else's 10, and that number just keeps growing.
Yep.
It gets harder and harder to beat unless you fix that retention and referral on the backside. So
Yeah.
our goal is going to be, can we increase that flow with the marketing and sales, but still get the same retention and referrals?
Yep.
All right. I know I've talked a lot, but I've got one more thing to spit at everyone real quick. And this is going to be our company thoughts section for the night, and I'll try and keep it brief. Tonight's company thoughts are going to be on small projects. And the reason why this is top of mind for me is because this has come up 3 times in the last 4 or 5 days. We've had people talk about a small project they want to do. And when I hear someone want to do a small project, or it's another example would be is, hey, it's just real quick, it's no big deal, is they're trying to frame the value they're putting around it, or they're trying to frame the cost putting around it. So I had a meeting today, and I sat down, and I don't want to get too into it because there's still stuff going on, but the person across the table from me said, we just have a small project. Now, their small project was over 6 figures. And so it's one of those things where I'm sitting there, and I even tried to say, like, small is always relative, because what's happening when that person says it, or I had a project referred to me, and the person who referred it said, oh, I've got a guy who does smaller projects. And the person calls me, and they're like, you do smaller use, right? And there was a flipper that called me and said, we're looking for a new GC, and we've got smaller projects. But the projects that they're talking about, the flipper, he's talking about 2 bathrooms and a kitchen along with some other stuff. It's like, that sounds like a whole house. So that to me doesn't constitute a small project.
It's a small house.
The other person who called was looking to finish up their master bathroom, and they were looking to do some stuff in their kitchen and some other items, and it's a small project. Why do they say it's a small project? Why is that a red flag? And it's because they're trying to set the table with, this should be cheap. They're trying to put the parameters on if this is a small project, it should be a small amount of money. So it's when someone puts that forward as far as, I've got a small project for you, and they give you a description of what it is, it's to reframe what that means. And sometimes if someone does have a small project, it's still on us to reframe it that, hey, just because it's small, it's not going to be cheap. So it's one of those things that I just want, like, I had to kind of sit there and do 3 times in the last week as far as telling people, like, hey, I get it, but my price is going to be expensive either way. And there are customers that I've worked with, and usually it's for other companies, or one other company primarily, but they've got multimillionaires and billionaires that their small is humongous to us, but it's also, they treat it as small because they pay it very quickly. Or it's like, you give them a price, yep, no problem, because they're ascribing that thing being small and the amount of money they're paying for it being small. A lot of the other people that are in these stories that I talked about, they're saying it's small, but it's still a large check for them. So that's where you have to reframe it. Otherwise, they're going to box you in, or you're going to be an awkward conversation. Dude, it's a small thing. Why is it so much money? And then they're looking at you like you're the bad guy. And so if you can frame it from the beginning that it's going to still be expensive either way, and there you go. Now, to kind of close this out, the flip side of that coin is going to be don't sell big projects as small projects. Because once again, it's going to be if someone has what we would consider a big project, but maybe for them is a small project, we want to make sure that we're not giving them options out of the small project budget or the cheap project budget. So it's we've talked about this last month with the options for a project, making sure that everything is discussed in terms of what it is. Like I had a project that the customer said price tag. I didn't think they were going to say yes to, but it's one of those things where you have to give them the options and don't sell out of. You can't always sell out of what you think they can afford. And that's where there's some due diligence that happens. So don't make a big project small when you have an opportunity to get a big project.
It was really interesting as getting to be on the client side of something similar when I was doing the irrigation job. And I called a number of companies and I got quite a big range for pricing. And so before I had called the other guys, there was just one guy I had initially called because I had done some work with him in the past, and he gave a quote. But the way he gave the quote was he gave like an itemized list of stuff, didn't put labor or anything like this, and so he was just kind of adding random labor costs to everything. So, you know, the little like sprinkler heads that you put on like irrigation to thing, he was basically saying like $50 a head, which those are 25 cents. And so it just misconstrues the real value of what he's doing. It's not that he's just installing that, but he's making sure, you know, every plant is getting sufficient water, all kinds of stuff like that. End up being, I was like, hey, I might not just understand, but this seems a little bit like expensive for what you're doing here, and maybe I'm just doing that. And his response was, oh well, you know, if this was 2020, it'd be half the cost. I was like, okay, but that doesn't really explain the value that you're bringing. Versus the guy I did end up going wasn't that much cheaper, but what he did is like, look, there will be cheaper prices. We are not the cheapest house. We're not the cheapest shop. We're not going to do it for the cheapest because we're licensed, we're bonded. We're bringing you up to code because your stuff's not up to code. We're going to make sure that this stuff, and it comes with a 3-year warranty. That was the most convincing of all of the guys. And then I had a guy who was outrageous pricing, but his whole thing was, oh, I'm a licensed arborist. You know, I'm going to make sure your trees and bushes are living for another 100 years or something like that, which that wasn't a value proposition that I cared about, but I could understand the value that he's coming from. He's like, look, every other guy is like, if they're not doing specific things for your specific trees and bushes, don't even consider them. I'm like, okay, if that's important to someone, that's a great value proposition. It's way better than, well, stuff was cheaper before COVID. I was like, that's not a good explanation for why things are expensive. You're not bringing any value to the table. You're not explaining to the client, hey, this is why I'm better. It's why you want to pay more for me, because I will give you a better service.
And the more that you can get as a company owner, where you can do selling, and that's where you can justify the price.
100%.
Like I've got stories that they're mostly from other people, thankfully. But my favorite one is, and I forget if I've told it on the podcast, is there is a customer I had that had a master bathroom redone. It looked great, but they had some additional items they wanted me to do. And when I asked why the previous contractor wasn't there because the work looked good, they told me it was because a 5-week project turned into a 7-month project. They put no plastic up or any partitions to control dust. So their entire master bedroom got completely just dirty. And then they got sleep data from their bed while they were in Chicago, and the bed's in Phoenix, meaning that someone was sleeping in their bed while they're not there. And on top of that, there was no hot water in the entire bathroom.
There's what?
No hot water in the entire bathroom.
Oh.
So this is where then, like, this is almost like perfect horror story for general contractor. They couldn't, like, the only way that we could make it worse, and they didn't talk about, and I'm not sure if it did, but if it went obscenely over budget, right? Timeline is shot. care for their stuff was not taken at all. And then the product they gave them sucked because I have no hot water in my master shower. I want a hot shower. Like,
Yeah.
Even in Arizona, we want warm showers. So for me, it's to say, like, hey, why is it so expensive? It's because we go through the process we've got plastic partitions. We're going to give you a schedule so that you can see what we're doing. We're going to be making sure that, like, all these projects in our portfolio that you see, these are happy customers.
Yeah.
Look at our reviews, 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
And we build that certainty. And so when someone says, why is it that much money? It's because it's like, I'm delivering the opposite of the horror story that you're imagining right now.
Yep.
Fortunately, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, the client pays extra so you don't sleep in their bed. How about
that.
Pay me double and I won't sleep in your bed while you're.
I'll give you a $2,000 discount if
I
you
would
let me
pay
sleep in your
right
bed
away.
at night.
You pay your
I'm gonna start
guys
using
well
that.
enough so they can sleep in their own bed.
Yeah.
And get a nice.
I'm going to use that in our option of the 3 versions of the project. It's here's the price to do the project. Here's with the upgraded fixtures. And then here's the just one that we said in the middle, but I'm going to sleep in your bed.
I'm going to sit here and you have to feed me at least 2 meals a day. Like, I basically stay at the house while we do the project.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So cool. All right, boys. Anything else before we get out of here?
No. All right. Thaddeus, we don't want to hear your thoughts. Oh no, we already talked about the couple of thoughts. I don't know why I said that. Sorry.
Jeez, we're signing out. Alex, where can they find you?
They can find me at control-analytics.com or LinkedIn.
You can find me at 4csrealestate.com or Connor Teich Real Estate.
How do you spell that?
FORESEESRE.com.
I will
We
say
need to.
it's very difficult. You need a different URL.
Different?
Oh yeah. 4C. The way I would think about it is the number 4, the letter C, and then RE.
Maybe we'll switch it.
We need a jingle for you.
We'll find it.
All right, guys. Instagram, Cyto Building, and cytobuilding.com.
So until next time.
I hope your hammer stays accurate.
Your Wi-Fi fast.
And your work blessed.
See you, everybody.
Peace.